SEVelocity back. Um, New week, new topics. So, you know, originally I think we were mostly, well, I mean, we'll always be a basketball podcast, but I think obviously during football season we're going to need to discuss some football too. I think that's something that's always good to talk about. I know a lot of people enjoy football as well as basketball, so no harm, no foul. How are you doing? What's going on?
We're expanding our horizons. Like, I mean, honestly, at this point, maybe we don't even claim to be a basketball podcast anymore. We could just
Sports
say
one.
a sports podcast. Yeah,
Yes.
because guess what? As I promised last week, your boy Sean, he's trying to learn football. Feels like a complete idiot watching what happens on the field, constantly texting Evan to understand what's going on. But I'm making an effort.
So, so I love football. It's probably my favorite sport. So today was a phenomenal day. We tried recording yesterday, had a couple technical difficulties. No stress, because we got to at least watch football today and be able to talk about that tonight.
Hmm.
Um, Lots of good games. So being that you're at Philadelphia, I know that you're kind of rooting for the Eagles. And let me tell
Fly,
you,
Eagles, fly.
yeah, they flew today. I'm gonna be straight up
Soaring,
honest with you.
flying.
This guy, I had very low expectations for the Eagles this week. Well, and in general, because you lost a lot of players. Carson Wentz leaves. You have Jalen Hurts, who's young and unproven. So I was interested to see how that went. You got to watch most of the game. I was. Here's the thing. I have two different channels. I think everyone gets two NFL games usually when they're watching on cable. So I am a big Jets fan, so I was watching the Jets versus Panthers game. And the other game that was covered on Fox was actually Eagles versus Falcons. So I got to watch that too, flipping between the two. Pretty awful game for the Eagles and Falcons. Specifically, the Falcons were absolute trash. And let me tell you, no one could block for Matt Ryan. He was getting destroyed every play. Um, I think
No
that,
defense.
yeah, no defense. The Falcons' defense did well towards the end of the game, but still didn't show up for a majority of the game. What else? Okay, Eagles. So, in terms of fantasy football, well, Jalen Hurts played really well, but they also had the rookie wide receiver Devontae Smith, who played extremely well. Scored 20 fantasy points, caught his first touchdown, and that was also his first catch, which was very entertaining. Rookie from Alabama. Um, Kyle Pitts played all right. That was the Falcons tight end. He was the fourth pick in the draft. A little bit below expectations, but you're a rookie. It takes time to gel. Um, but overall, an absolute blowout in Atlanta by the Eagles. I mean, Jalen Hurts played flawlessly, didn't throw any interceptions, threw three touchdowns, 270 passing yards. Miles Sanders played well at running back, 70 rushing yards, and then the wide receiving core played pretty well, as well as the defense absolutely killed it. That
What
defense
can I
doesn't have a
say?
lot of big names on it either. What?
Eagles soar higher than Falcons do.
Yeah, they're the better bird. It's official.
Yeah,
So
the birds.
if if you went to look into the NFC East, there's four teams. You got the Washington football team, you got the Giants, you got the Cowboys, and you got the Eagles. So the Eagles were projected to finish last in the division. But now they're off to a pretty hot start, and they look better than I think most people anticipated. They're supposed to be one of the bottom teams in the NFL. Should be interesting. I think that they will keep up the momentum. Problem is, they face the 49ers this upcoming week, and that's probably not going to be a win. 49ers just spent the last few hours destroying the Lions until the final 2 minutes where they gave up 20 points. But great game by them. What else do we want to talk about? Um, the Jets did very good, let me down as usual. Rookie quarterback played well. Our best offensive lineman is Makai Becton is probably lost to a MCL sprain for the next 6 or 7 weeks. Um, our former quarterback we traded away for almost nothing destroyed us today on the field. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it there. We lost. So that was pretty rough. Zach Wilson looked good though, the rookie quarterback. Um,
Oh, okay. I guess New York just loves losing.
yeah, we're good at it. We're extremely good at it, unless you're the Yankees. All right, so now let's talk about the Browns and Chiefs because I know you watched some of that game.
My
What were your thoughts?
homeboy, my
Mahomes,
homeboy is a bad boy.
Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, and he showed that today. You know, everyone thought, oh, first half, three quarters in, the Browns are actually going to win. You know, Baker Mayfield looks great, offensive line looks great, receivers look good, and the defense is holding Pat Mahomes to 10 points. Yeah, and then Pat Mahomes turned into Pat Mahomes and threw a 70-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill and never looked back and ended up winning the game on a Baker Mayfield pick. Um,
Came from behind and won.
yeah. So with that, you also got to watch Baker Mayfield, who is very charismatic and loud. What were your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I was actually on the last play. I want to ask you because I have another friend who I talk to on regular who's a big football fan, and he was telling me that last play where Baker Mayfield he threw the ball, but the
Chiefs picked
The
it off.
Chiefs, yeah, the interception. He said Baker Mayfield made a bad decision there. Even obviously it was like a panic throw. He said he would have been better off either trying to run it himself or like dropping down to the ground to like just take it down and try another play.
So here's the thing, and for those of you who didn't see the play, what happened was Mayfield took the snap and he was looking to throw a sideline pass to one of his wide receivers when, as he was about to throw it, he was tackled from behind, wrapped around his legs, and he threw the ball as he was falling. Now, there's a few different perspectives. So some people thought he was still throwing the pass to the receiver, which I don't think so. And then the other belief was that he was about to get sacked, so he's trying to throw the ball away out of bounds. But as he was throwing the ball away out of bounds, the defender grabbed his legs and he lost all the leverage on the throw, and it threw way shorter than anticipated and went right into the Chiefs' hands. So I think that he might have panicked a bit, but I don't think that's his fault. He was trying to throw the ball away and got unlucky, and he took all away. The defender took away all the leverage, and he threw a flopped pass that went straight to the Chiefs player. And I think that's just unlucky. There's nothing you could really do to change that.
Okay.
But he played well all game too. I was pretty surprised because he's playing above expectations. He's a good quarterback, but he played very well before that.
But he got baked.
Yeah. And Nick Chubb killed him too. Killed the Chiefs too at running back. Um, he was averaging like 5 or 6 yards a carry. Kareem Hunt played well, caught a touchdown or ran in a touchdown, but against his former team. Tyreek Hill played the best. He had like 200 receiving yards. No surprise there. Travis Kelsey played well. Um, not much defense in the game, to be honest with you. And the defenses, both defenses were really tired, especially the Browns in the fourth quarter. Um, Other things I wanted to talk about with football, I know you didn't watch these games, but they were a few minor points that I got to watch some highlights from. Packers versus Saints.
I saw the score on that. I mean, I've heard a certain individual say that that quarterback there is a bad man.
That's
I
one
didn't
of my
watch.
favorite players too, so it
Yeah,
hurts.
yeah, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know whether he played poorly or not, or how. Again, I'm just learning football, so I can't even
Well,
evaluate the roster or anything.
I think out of any quarterback, ideally you want like 300 passing yards, something
Mhm.
around there, and you want them to have above 50% completion percentage and not turn over the ball a lot. Aaron Rodgers passed 15 to 28, so it was above 50%, but he only threw for 130 yards and he threw two interceptions and zero touchdowns. So he did not play well. Um,
Okay.
at one point, he was benched. I think it was just because they're losing by so much. There's no point of him getting hurt. They put in the backup. Now, any of you who watch football will know that this is considered the last dance for Aaron Rodgers because he does not want to play on the Packers. So he's agreed to this will be his final year, and in return, the team will end the contract next year or trade him next year. So this is it for Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't get along well with the front office. So this was his first game before Jordan Love, the backup, takes over next year. Um, and he did not play well. Awful start. The team got blew out in New Orleans, which for some reason they don't usually play well in New Orleans, even though it's a dome. Um, but the other interesting story is on the other side of the ball. The New Orleans Saints. You know who their starting quarterback is?
Who?
Jameis Winston. He
Oh,
because Tom
I
Brady
know
took his
him.
job, and so he went to New Orleans to be the backup until Drew Brees retired. And Jameis
Mm.
Winston threw 20 passes. He completed 14 of them for 150 yards. But get this, 5 touchdowns he threw. He absolutely murdered the Packers today. Um,
Wow.
Absolutely phenomenal performance, and I picked him up in fantasy football 5 minutes before the game started. Didn't start him though, so 10 out of 10. Um, but at least he's on my bench. So I wanted to point that out because that's one of the top quarterbacks getting destroyed. Bengals won in overtime over the Vikings. I'll just say a couple quick ones. Jaguars number one pick Trevor Lawrence played against the Texans, and out of all the quarterbacks in the last 14 years that were drafted number one, 13 of them lost their first game. So it wasn't but he was playing the worst team in the NFL, and he lost. So he continues that trend. Lost to the Texans. Dolphins beat the Patriots. Thank goodness. Um, that's that's pretty much all of the important games that I could think of. Carson Wentz
uh,
made his debut in the Colts. He lost. Russell Wilson killed him.
Gotta call you out on some blasphemy. You missed maybe the most important one. Opening night.
Okay, I said today's games because I did want to
Okay.
bring up opening night.
Okay, okay.
Also, I am an anti-Giants guy, so nothing like watching them get blown out by the Broncos. Or they only lost by 2 touchdowns, but they did not play well.
The New York schism.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater played very well. Now, opening night, probably the best opening night football game in the last 10 years that I could think of.
Again, I think I want to go first here.
Go ahead.
Again, me. I don't know football and I don't follow the sport, but every year I do watch the Super Bowl because I mean it just American culture at this point. So I've seen, despite my lack of understanding, I've seen the monster on the field that is Tom Brady many times over the years, and I got to say that game it just looked typical Brady F to me. Well, the Cowboys. Yeah, I listen to Stephen A. Smith a lot. I just assumed it was going to be a blowout because I figured they suck, and Michael Irvin just guesses them up every year. But I'll say Dak Prescott. I mean, again, I'm probably have no place to like really evaluate quarterback, but I think he did really well on that game. He threw some really accurate passes, and the receivers like they went to work as well. I'm becoming a big CD Lamb fan. Um, but as for Brady, the final typical final minutes of the game, the seconds even, he just makes something happen. Straight face, remain calm, poised, no emotions, just snatches people's hearts.
I I remember you were watching the game, and I messaged you the second the Cowboys scored and the Bucks were down, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's a minute and 30 seconds on this clock. The Bucks are gonna win." And sure enough, not even 5 minutes later, the Bucks are kicking a field goal to win the game because Tom Brady marched them down the field. Now, in terms of Dak Prescott, so he of course had this horrific leg injury a year ago, and from my understanding, a awful recovery process. He did really well in recovery, and he went through all the proper rehab processes to get to where he needed to be. But like one of the most painful injuries, from my understanding. He was easily a top 10 quarterback last year, and I don't think a lot of people admit that. I think there's a lot of hate, not only because I think the biggest thing is because he's on the Cowboys that he gets so much hate. And everyone loves to hate the Cowboys. And hey, I'm right there with you. But you have to evaluate fairly. And Dak Prescott was really good. And last on Thursday night, I think it would be fair to say that he's knocking on the door to be a top 5 quarterback, especially when you have guys like Deshaun Watson, who aren't playing currently. He played extremely well, uh, and I think that the that was the best group of receiving players on two teams combined. I mean, you had Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, and on the other side you had Amari Cooper, C.D. Lamb, and Michael Gallup. And then you have guys like Ezekiel Elliott and Leonard Fournette playing running back. So that was really a great game. I mean, Antonio Brown, 120 receiving yards and a touchdown. Absolutely killed it. But I mean, the two best players in the game were the quarterbacks, and there's no doubt about that. Tom Brady and Dak Prescott played the best out of everyone on their teams. And Tom Brady was dead accurate most of the night. And I mean, he did throw two picks, but he did everything that was necessary to win the game. And Dak Prescott threw three touchdowns and threw for over 400 yards, and you can't ask for more, especially coming off the injury. This is his first game back taking contact, and what a lot of people don't understand is when you come back from those awful leg injuries, people feel comfort throwing the ball and they feel great to be back. But the biggest thing is there's always this absolute scare about the first time you're going to get hit by another player. Is my leg going to be able to withstand it? And I'm sure, like most quarterbacks, the biggest thing they said, or any player, is once you get that first hit, you feel way better because you feel like your leg's back and you're fine. So I think he's going to feel great moving forward. And he plays the Chargers next week, plays your Eagles the week after, so that should be good. By the way, the
God.
the Eagles game is going to be Monday Night Football, so that is going to be a primetime game.
Ooh.
Eagles versus Cowboys, that's going to be a great game. And then on the other side, Tom Brady and company are going to be facing the Falcons, so that's going to be 55-0. After what we saw today. But yeah, it was a good week of football so far. And for those of
Actually,
you,
I have a quick question. Speaking of Falcons, was it the Falcons that the Patriots faced in
yes,
20? I was
28 to
gonna
3, they
say
were winning.
I was gonna say of out of all the football games I watched and all the Brady moments watched, I still remember freshman year of college in the in the lounge with all of the other freshmen watching the game. That moment was etched in my mind forever. Despite me not knowing football, I knew something like that's not supposed to happen.
Um, I used to hate Tom Brady, obviously as a Jets fan, because the Patriots is a bitter rival. But when you start to win so much, it goes past this threshold of hate and turns into respect. And I think that's kind of something that LeBron has in my heart in the NBA too. When you watch a guy get blown out 28 to 3 at halftime, and this is my freshman year too. I threw this pizza party for all my friends down at school. Got Domino's, got a bunch of wings from Buffalo Wild Wings, set it all up. And we're sitting there watching, and I remember very vividly one of my friends was like, "This game is absolutely over," and I told him, "You better shut your mouth because I don't think so." He's like, "It's 28 to 3. There's no way." And I was like, "Do you see who's on the other sideline? Because you should take a look." And they did this small panel of Tom Brady getting really pissed off and walking towards the locker room. I'm like, he's not going to lose this game. And an hour and a half later, he's holding up the Lombardi Trophy, and everyone just blinked and has no clue what happened.
It, it was just such a such I just can't believe what happened. It was just like a nuclear explosion between the Patriots offense and him just throwing so many insane long completions, but then also on the other end, so many
Absolute
terrible offense from the
implosion.
Falcons.
Implosion.
Like so many like on these throws that I seen like many receivers catch, like they were just dropping these
Yeah.
easy
It was
ones.
hard to
Like I
watch.
thought, like I counted so many touchdowns they should have had. Like I was saying, I can't believe this is happening. And one of my friends who's also a Brady hater and we're watching this, and he said, if Tom Brady really come back and wins this, he's officially the GOAT.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's how a lot of people felt too. And
Yeah.
it was I don't know, it was so surreal to watch because obviously your respect shot up for him, but like I think the biggest thing with the Falcons losing that game because it wasn't only the Patriots won it, the Falcons imploded.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And honestly, same quarterback 4 years later, and they look exactly the same, imploding every moment. But the biggest problem is when you're in the Super Bowl and you're up 25 at halftime, you were expected to lose that game. I think originally, I think the Patriots are expected to win. What a lot of people don't understand is the second you're up 25, you just shot all the expectations to your side. So now everything's like, well, these guys won. It's guaranteed at this point. And when you have all the expectations and you're playing for nothing basically, um, and I mean, it's nice when you're playing for nothing if you're back against the wall. You know, like the Patriots, it's like, okay, well, we could see if we can come back. No one expects us to win. When the Falcons have all the expectations that they're going to win, they fell apart and they were too afraid. And they tried to play safe for the win, and theoretically, there's no greater danger than playing it safe. Um, and we saw that. Uh,
If only Brady had the performances against Eli Manning.
yeah, well, that's one of the few games where I think I almost rooted for Tom Brady
As
because
a matter of fact, why do well, this is a joke, but also a serious question since I don't really know. Why is Eli Manning like never like in like, greatest quarterback the discussions? Like I'll say this. I think he's very like from my understanding like controversial like in this regard because I've heard many consistent opinions in the regular season, it's like he looks like a great or good quarterback, or but some people say he sucks or he's decent or whatever, or he's consistent in the regular season. But then when it comes to the playoffs, especially in the Super Bowl, it's like he turned into like a generational talent that you've
right.
never seen.
And that's exactly what it is too. I'm trying to think of a good player comparison to compare in basketball, but what he does essentially is he's absolutely mediocre all regular season, and he'll limp into the playoffs 9 times out of 10. Um,
And when he gets there, it's
that's when
like
he
he's
starts.
unstoppable.
It's like that's when he starts trying. I just pulled up some stats for you here. Um, Eli Manning, his all-time record is he's 117 and 117. So he has a 500 record split. So he's very mediocre when he was in the regular season. He kept at a normal pace. He had really good passing stats. He threw for a lot of yards, but he also threw for a lot of interceptions. There was 3 different years where he led the league in interceptions. He had 27 interceptions in one of his years. Um, so it was very weird. He was so wildly inconsistent. But then when you get into the playoffs, he would pull off all these plays that most quarterbacks wouldn't pull off. The one that comes to mind in the Super Bowl is like that when David Tyree catches the ball on his helmet and he like pins it to his helmet. A lot of people fail to understand that Eli Manning like shed like two or three 300-pound men before he threw that ball. Like they were on top of him, and he came out of there and threw it downfield, and that guy caught it. David Tyree. So, and everyone asks, is he a Hall of Famer? Listen, I'm super anti-Giants, but when someone goes and wins 2 Super Bowls, regardless of how bad he could be at times, you're a Hall of
against the
Famer.
one against the
Yeah,
one who's widely regarded as the GOAT and you're undefeated against him.
yeah. You got to understand, Tom Brady would have, I think, what is it, 9 Super Bowl rings?
Yeah, 9 and
Otherwise,
0. Well,
yeah.
no, 9 and 1.
Um, so it's very easy to say for me that he's in the Hall of Fame. And there's 3 different quarterbacks that were in that class. There's Eli Manning. There was Philip Rivers from the Chargers, who didn't win a Super Bowl, but probably had statistically the best career. Um, and then Ben Roethlisberger. And Ben Roethlisberger also won 2 rings too, but he's regressed massively, and he's probably in the final year of his career. Um, I think he makes the Hall of Fame too. So it's an interesting discussion. And in terms of Tom Brady, this is a little bit off topic. Oh, he has 6 rings, by the way, not 7. Oh wait, no, he has
No,
7.
it's
I'm sorry,
7.
he has
Yeah.
7. Yeah. I want to say that Tom Brady did a wrestling move and turned face when he went to the Bucks. If you know what that means, turned into the good guy. So in wrestling terms, when you're heel, that means you're the bad guy. And when you
Hmm.
turn face, it's when you turn into the good guy. And turning heel would
Okay.
be turning into the bad guy. So when he left for the Bucks, he abandoned Bill Belichick, which everyone hated him in the Patriots, can't stand him, right? He goes to the complete opposite conference and he goes to Florida, right? And there's this thing that everyone likes to call the Tom Brady effect. It's like whenever one of the best in the world comes to the team, the expectations are so high, everyone tries to play as flawlessly as possible, which is what happened. But he turned space because now he's doing all this. He's throwing a Super Bowl trophy off a boat to somebody else. He's getting walked out of the Super Bowl parade completely drunk. And he's like barely. He's doing all these fun things, and everyone says he's the nicest guy in the world. And he just does a 180 turn when he went to this team, and it's just so wild because everyone hated him so much in New England. Um, but what a change! And I wouldn't mind if he won another Super Bowl because it would be entertaining. I think people like LeBron. I think the ratings kind of go down when Tom Brady's not in the Super Bowl because it's like everyone either loves to hate him or roots for him, because it's
Yeah.
history. So I don't know. It should be an interesting season. Starting off 1-0 though. Probably gonna go
Hmm.
2-0 once they play the Falcons. Yeah, I, I don't know. By the way, the Rams and Bears are on right now, and the Rams just scored 7-0. Uh, I'm looking at the Bucs schedule because I want to see which good games there would be for Tom Brady. Tom Brady plays the Eagles actually October 14th.
I'm watching that.
Yeah, he plays the Giants 2 weeks after that. Um, oh no, I didn't.
Jets.
Yeah, I didn't know that the Jets play the Bucs. January 2nd. It's the last game I think before the playoffs. We're gonna have to win to make the playoffs, I'm sure. I'm kidding, but
Have fun.
yeah. All right, so I think I covered everything I want to talk about in that regard. Fantasy team's going to take the L this week, two-time champion. Keep that in mind. It's rough, but it's okay. It's a process. And if anyone's curious, Matt Stafford threw the touchdown to Van Jefferson, wide receiver on the Rams, and it is 7-0. Okay, got the Ravens tomorrow too, by the way. Lamar Jackson facing the Las Vegas
I'm
Raiders.
definitely watching that. I want to see the legend this upcoming legendary running quarterback everyone like talks about.
Okay,
I just want to see the speed.
I'll I'll
That's it.
I'll walk you through this.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson was easily a top three quarterback, if not the best. Not last year, the year before. This last year, he was good to all right. He had a couple bad throws, but his mobility made up for it. Now, this year, the expectations are that he'll be good, but the problem is his running back just tore his ACL. His backup running back just tore his Achilles. His best defensive player, Marcus Peters, just tore his ACL. And then Justice Hill also tore his ACL. So four players in the span of a week on his team tore his ACL, all starters.
Okay, so how did they tear their ACLs in practice?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And a lot of
Hey,
people, a lot of
we're
people would
talking about
attribute that to the
practice.
turf. Like some people say there's turf issues where your foot gets stuck and your knee twists, stuff like that. So a lot of people are wondering if there's a problem with the Ravens practice facility. Um,
Well, Lamar, you're just gonna have to run the ball yourself and get all your
yeah,
touchdowns.
just gonna have to be Lamar Jackson. He's gonna have
Yeah.
to play quarterback and running back, which is probably the one person who's capable of it. So, and it's gonna be against the Las Vegas Raiders. I want to say I don't know if. Let me double check. Um, um, Actually, never mind. I think the Raiders. So the Raiders were Las Vegas. They just moved there last year. I thought this might have been Vegas' first game, but last year is when they first played in Vegas.
Okay.
Moving from Oakland, which Oakland's some of the most loyal fans in the world, so I didn't understand that, but that's okay. Now, all right, shifting our attention elsewhere. Um, let's talk some basketball.
Yeah, something I actually have some knowledge in.
Don't worry, by the end of the season, you'll know everything.
Yeah, that's a bit pushing it, but I appreciate the optimism.
It's a process. So, um, you wanted to talk about it. I'll give you the floor for the topic.
Yep. Here's an interesting topic for the fans out there. I'm not sure if any of you've pondered it, but I certainly have. Who is the better representative of of European basketball in the NBA right now? When I say better, I mean who's the better player? Luka Doncic or Nikola Jokic? Now, the reason why I bring up this topic is I feel like both of them, especially more recently for Jokic, they're getting a lot of praise, like well due to them, of course, to their games. But but their praise, if this makes a sense, makes any sense, is like separate,
Hmm.
meaning we never like juxtapose them to each other
Yeah.
where we start asking who's better. Because I think right now, well, I'm not sure if I'll say majority, but at least maybe around 50-50 people consider Jokic the best center in the NBA. Maybe some consider him the best big man period in the NBA.
So
Where Luca, many, I mean, among the young players in the league, I mean, I guess Jokic is also pretty young, but among those guys that are under 25, Luca's considered the best. Some think he's already top five, perhaps, but I've never heard Jokic like name brought up in the top five before. In fact, I never ever hear anyone talk about Jokic in terms of where he stands in the league overall. We always just hear about where he stands in terms of centers.
yeah.
Where Luca, we don't really hear much about where he stands in terms of position. People just say, "Oh, he's just scratching on the top five."
So
So,
that's a here's the thing. When we go and do debates, if we look at each position, you go point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. Now,
hmm
if you're gonna say let's name the best person in each of those positions, I think you will agree with this entire list. You're gonna say Steph Curry is the best point guard, the best
hmm
shooting guard is James Harden, the best
hmm
small forward is LeBron or Kevin Durant, one of those two.
yeah,
Power forward's Giannis, and then center's Jokic, right? Some would say
mi-
Embiid. Yeah,
yeah. I'm gonna power forward. So AD still in that conversation, but
yeah.
I, I'll give it Giannis for now.
Okay, so I think when you line it up like that, you don't list Luca, right? But you
Yeah,
you list Jokic. So I think Jokic is I won't say far and away, but outside of him and Embiid, there's no one that's even close to those two in his position.
yeah.
So the problem is when you line him up with Luca is Luca has more of an impact on the entire team than Jokic tends to. Jokic will get a lot of assists too still, but like usually Luka's going to get a bunch of assists. He's still going to get a ton of points too, though. He's usually going to get 40. I know Jokic 35, 40. I know Jokic will score near there too, but I feel like he has less of an impact on the rest of the guys around him, where Luka is still making a pretty big impact.
I don't know if I agree with that actually. Like, I think their impact on the guys around them like is very comparable. The thing is with Jokic, like he doesn't score at the same volume that Luka does. Like I think Jokic generally takes less shots
Yeah.
unless he really has to.
Uh,
But but here's the thing. I think Jokic yeah, I think he puts more energy on the defensive end than Luka does.
that I agree with. So I think the biggest thing is Luka and his position and what he contributes. I think attributes more to winning than what Jokic does. Um, Like so, if you took Jamal Murray away, which we did this year, and so
Mm,
it was just it was Luca and Jokic were both alone on their respective teams going into the playoffs.
yeah.
I think Luca's team was capable of going further off of Luca's back than the Nuggets were off of Jokic's back. Is I think the best way I could put it. And that's not necessarily saying one's better than the other. I just think his team would be closer to winning than Jokic's team.
That's true, but 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 we gotta consider too. Luca had his whole squad with him,
Yeah,
whereas what's the name? Jokic, he didn't have Jamal Murray
right,
with him, so they didn't have their primary ball handler there. And in a way, Jokic, I mean, there were moments where he had to act as a primary ball handler, but that kind of puts him as a in an awkward position,
right.
like because point guard and center they're just polar opposites. Where Jokic, we see he had the skill set to actually bring the ball up the floor and legitimately run point guard. Like it's incredible, but at the same time, that puts him at a disadvantage because he has to be that big presence down low as well.
Yeah, And anyone watching knows that I'm not trying to be biased in any way. I think Sean could tell you that uh, between Giannis and Jokic, those two are easily my two favorite players in the NBA. So me saying Luka, and Luka's up there too, but I think I like Jokic a little bit more. Me saying Luka is slightly better is not in any way having any bias or slight
Yeah,
to Jokic.
I'm not calling you out on this, but I feel like most people will say Luca is better because I'm I think it goes back to that bias that people tend to have towards like guard perimeter play
Right.
because it's more entertaining to watch than the big man. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't. I'm not sure who I really consider the better playmaker between them, and the fact that Jokic is a center and his playmaking is that surreal says something.
Yeah.
Like part of me actually believes that I believe that Jokic actually has a higher basketball IQ than Luka does, because I'm considering also when they have the ball in their hands, the shot selection. I think Luka takes more difficult shots than he has at some time. Where Jokic, I think his core vision than that is actually superior to Luka's in his decision making.
It's weird because I'm trying to think of the thought I was gonna have. I think Luka's more capable of taking a game over. So I think that might be a factor that's going through my mind. Like I think that I can if I felt like I was losing and I needed to come back quick, I think Luka would be able to orchestrate that quicker than Jokic would be able to. But I
But
think
the
Jokic is
thing is,
always consistent.
yeah. but the contrast to that though is in where it comes postseason. I think now we gotta look at where the evidence though is in favor of Jokic because we saw what happened against the Clippers.
Right.
I mean, obviously Jamal Murray was a huge factor in that, but right there in Game 7, I mean, yeah, Jamal had 40 points, but Jokic, he destroyed them
Yeah.
in throughout that series.
It's tough to evaluate because I think Jokic is the
Yeah,
best center in the NBA, but I don't think um, Luka's the best point forward in the NBA.
yeah. I I'm honestly indecisive on which of them is better as well. But the reason why I brought it a topic is, in a way, I think that people need to look at Jokic and like in the bigger picture as among like the best players in the NBA, where Luka is getting that recognition. I think Jokic, wherever we want to rank Luka in terms of where everyone ranks in the league, I think Jokic's name should be somewhere close.
I think that so when we talk about the top five players in the NBA overall, not even just by position,
Yeah.
you usually bring up LeBron, KD, Giannis, um,
Mhm.
Steph, and either James Harden or AD, right?
Yeah, and Kawhi.
Oh yeah, and Kawhi too.
Yeah, all right. We'll just say six because those are pretty much like a lock six
And
for
like you
everyone.
said, Luka's usually right in that conversation or right outside of it. So he's usually
Yeah,
5 or 6 or he's 7.
yeah, yeah. All right,
And
we'll put him seven. I think it's very fair that now that we got those names out there. I think it's very fair to put Jokic at eight.
here's the thing. I think it's fair to put Jokic. I think that Jokic can be above James Harden, and
Yeah.
I
I was gonna go further too. I don't see a problem why he can't be top five because I really genuinely do not think. I mean, obviously there's gonna be some degree of preference of like who we think is better and
yeah,
stuff, but I don't think. But the word inferior, I don't think he's per se
no,
inferior to like guy. Out. We'll leave LeBron and Katie out of it, but everyone else, the
right,
farm, yeah, I don't think he's inferior to them in any way.
no, and I think Jokic, and that's the whole reason that a lot of people don't understand why he was elected MVP over Steph. Everyone's like, oh, Steph was way better. No, watch the games.
Yeah. Yeah, the only reason why I personally wanted to give it to Steph is just because I saw what Steph was working with throughout the
Right,
year.
right,
Yeah.
and I kind of want to give Luka that credit or Jokic that credit because he had not having Jamal Murray. Your next best player is Michael Porter, and I understand he's good, but he's not that good.
Yeah.
So being the main guy and still keeping your team as a was it 4 seed in the playoffs is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Um,
I look at Jokic. I see him as being like this era, like Tim Duncan. Like, despite the fact he throws flashy, insane passes, it's just something about him. He doesn't have much swagger. He just, you look at him, he just looks unassuming. He's slow. Like, he's not the most overall most fun player to watch. So I think he get overlooked. But again, you look at the numbers. It's like you're wondering where did that come from? Where
he
Luca, we see him like doing these. I mean, even Luca, he doesn't necessarily have a killer crossover, but we see the way he scores. He scores at such a high volume, and and he makes these like crazy like highlight reel shots that I think are more entertaining for us.
I think that um, if you were to combine any three players to create Nikola Jokic, I think it's Tim Duncan, Marc Gasol, and Kevin Love. Because he's
Yeah.
able to have the mid range and a
Oh,
little bit of 3 point range too.
I was gonna say Dirk, because we saw him
Oh,
doing the
Dirk would be a
one,
good one.
yeah, the 1 foot mid range shot. He was hitting that in
So
the playoffs.
he's got this great mid range and 3 point range because he's been getting better at 3 point range. I'm looking at his 3 point percentage. He was 39% last year in 3 point, which is pretty good for a big man.
That's great. You're
Yeah.
practically 40% for
So
anybody.
that's phenomenal. And then he shot a 57% field goal percentage for the season, which
So
is
he almost went. What's his free throw percentage? Is it in the 80s?
his free throw percentage was 87%.
He was almost 40, 50, 90.
So it's so hard for me to say anything to insult him because he's doing all these things as a big man, which
Eh,
us big men aren't expected to make free throws. I don't know why. I can make my
mm.
free throws.
And then that's the funny thing though. Now we look at Luca. That's where we can give Jokic an advantage. Because
Yeah.
Luca, despite his positioning, he's an inferior free throw shooter and statistically 3-point shooter. Like he shoots of the free throws and the 3-point shot at a lower rate than Jokic does.
So like, it's so hard to flame Jokic in any way because he plays everything so well. He's not. We have to use 3 or 4 different people to describe his skill in a combination. Like that's how unique he is as a center.
As far as I'm concerned, the only flaws you could give him are lack of athleticism and defense.
Yeah, and his defense isn't even that bad. He's still a good defender. The problem is, um, like you said, he's a little bit unathletic. And
A little bit.
all right, he's unathletic.
and
Kind of. I mean,
and
he doesn't show that when he's ball handling. Which a lot of
but
people don't
that's not
understand.
that's skill, not athleticism.
But like when you look at his height, I know he's 6'11", he's a big dude, but that's still pretty short for a center. Like you
He's only 6. I saw he was 7'1".
6'11".
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I mean, I wouldn't say that's short. A lot of the centers in the league are like 6'11", 7
but like,
flat.
yeah, I mean, like Embiid's 7 foot. It's just when you play center, you still want to be tall and you still want to be able to get a rebound. And he doesn't have like this. He has good rebounding skills, but when you go on defense, I don't
Mhm.
know, his defensive post and rebounding isn't as strong as you probably would like it to be. Um, it's still a great defender though. It's just he's not the top of the game. Like he's not Giannis on defense. He's not
Yeah,
LeBron on defense.
yeah.
So I don't know. I guess
Actually, I'm starting to take back what I think I decided. Oh, I believe that Jokic is better than Luka because we pointed out like the things that he has over Luka. I'm not gonna say he's definitely a better 3-point shooter than Luka because again, I think Luka takes more difficult 3-point
right.
shots, so we can call it even there. And I'll say Luka's the more clutch 3-point shooter, but free throws definitely Jokic. And like as we said, defensively, we just praise Jokic's offense, but as you say, he's not a bad defender. Like I'll say
No.
he's a maybe good or average to good defender, but Luca, I'll say he's a terrible defender.
Yeah, he's a bit slow on defense,
Yeah,
and
and I'll also say off the ball, Jokic. I mean, being a big man, like big men, they tend to be more active off the ball than any other position. But when Luca's off the ball, he just it's like he's just not there. He's just standing in one spot waiting for you for them to give him the ball so he can just go dance in the
Yeah,
ISO.
I
So
could agree with that.
I think all around, I think Jokic is a superior player at
Uh,
the moment.
Yeah, I think with all of that said, that's why LeBron James is the better player.
Yeah. So what's their age gap between them, Luka and Jokic? I know
Without,
Jokic is still fairly
I'll
young.
look it up, but I want you to guess first.
I'm gonna say it's like a all right. Luca, he's 2 years under us. Well, two or no, I think he's 22 now. Yeah, Luca 22. So I'm gonna say Jokic 26.
So your final answer?
Yeah.
You're correct.
Oh, really?
Jokic is 26 and Luka's 22.
Okay.
Um, and I remember. Let me pull back Jokic's stats again real quick because I remember when he first started playing notable minutes, and I was like, this guy's really good offensively. He's probably going to be really good. I think you know for a fact that I was on the Jokic bandwagon before he got there.
Yeah.
Uh, I got a jersey from Jokic, I think his second or third year, and I'm so proud of that. It was before he was, I think, an All Star. Um, but I want to look at his stats real quick from early on because he had an interesting start to his career. So his first year in Denver, he was 20 years old, 2015, 2016. Uh, he had 10 points. He averaged 10 points a game, one steal, two assists, and 7 rebounds a game in 25 minutes or 21 minutes per game.
Mm,
It's not bad. Then you go to the next year, he goes 17 points a game, so pretty big jump, 7 points a game more, 9.8 rebounds a game, and 4.9 assists, so 5 assists.
mm,
Pretty good jump. Next year, he goes 18 and a half points. I think this is 2017, 2018 is when I think I started to notice him. He made the All Star team the next year. Maybe
mm,
2016, 2017, he made a little bit of a presence, but not as much. 2017, 2018, he scored 19 a game, averaged 6 assists a game, and then 11 rebounds. I was like, okay, this guy's pretty good, right? And then he goes to 20 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, 7 assists, and then 19. And he shoots up to 27, and he averages 9 assists a game and 11 total rebounds. It's just getting
and
better every
again,
year.
and I think that 27 points a game. I think the big part of that too, what's his name, Jamal Murray not being there, so he will probably shoot taking more shots. Because when I see Jokic playing the regular season versus the playoffs, I see two different players. I'm not gonna say he doesn't try in the regular season, but he scores in a more reserved role,
Yeah, it's
like
more of a
only as the
rusty
team needs.
type.
Yeah, but he focusing more on his playmaking then. But then when we see him, when what we seen out of him in the playoffs, he's become like a scoring machine. So I
Yeah,
think he's one of those guys who you can't necessarily evaluate like statistically, well, in terms of regular season stats comparing it to other guys.
I
You have
agree.
to look at what he does in the postseason more so
I agree.
because he's showing that he's one of those guys who elevates the level of play when the team needs it most, and that's very important, especially when you're gonna talk about someone in terms of being the best at their position or the best in the league.
I want one of those retro rainbow Denver Nuggets jerseys with Jokic on
Mm.
it. I want to get one of
And
those.
and I'll say with Luca, well with him. I think he's in a way kind of the same between the regular season and the playoffs. Maybe I'll say maybe he takes up slightly better in the playoffs because I mean he already played at such a high level in the regular season.
Yeah, I think a lot of those guys are. I won't say playing at. I'll say that they're playing like at 80 or 90%. And
Yeah,
then when you go into the playoffs, it's like let's try to play 110%. Um,
yeah. I know Luca. He started off the season like out of shape as well,
yeah,
and he and oh in the playoffs he had a nerve damage, a neurological disorder, damage or something in the back of his neck. So I know he was playing through a lot.
yeah, it's oh man. I guess there's a fair argument to say Jokic over
Yeah,
Luka.
for
I
now.
a year
Because
from
again,
now.
Luka's 4 years younger, so Jokic is about to. We're basically going to see Jokic about to hit his peak. Where Luka, he still have more time to ascend.
I'm excited to see Luka's peak. I mean Jokic's peak.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean both. But Jokic, I think the next 2 years are going to be the best 2 years of his career. So
Mm.
I'm hoping that they get him some freaking help. I get Jamal Murray's great, and you're probably one series away from reaching the finals with Jamal Murray. You can usually probably you could you have a chance of upsetting people like the Clippers and making those the Western Conference Finals and lose to the Lakers or something. But you need something that's going to put you in competitive mode with the Lakers. So
I still think Michael Porter Jr. could potentially be that key. Obviously, pulling more
yeah,
like role players, but from what we've seen from
Aaron Gordon's been really good
MPJ,
too.
yeah, from what we've seen from MPJ, it looks like he's on the upward trend. Because because that last game when Jokic fouled out, Michael Porter Jr. He actually started stepping up when Jokic got fouled out of the game.
Yeah. Um, I don't even know who would be a good fit. I mean, I think someone that can establish a good pick and roll would be nice,
Hmm.
but I can't think of. I mean, you already have Jamal Murray, so shooting or a decent forward.
Yeah, I think it's the guys who can score off the ball and play defense. I think that's what they need.
I mean, the number one person I could think of would be Clay Thompson.
Yeah, 3 and D. I mean,
You have
you
Clay
don't get
Thompson,
better
you have
than that.
Jokic and Jamal Murray. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that team would be very talented.
Hmm.
Uh,
Or maybe also maybe this will help too. Find a. I'm not sure who their backup center is at the moment, but find a good backup center for Jokic.
um, I think they have a decent one. Well, they have Bol. We don't know what he's gonna be.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. Um, yeah,
like honestly, I think. Oh, I mean, they could lead it to like another topic, but
J-
did DeAndre Jordan like instead of go to the Lakers? I think the Denver Nuggets would have been better, especially since they have Dwight Howard on the Lakers.
well, I was gonna say I think Dwight Howard would have been perfect for the Nuggets as backup. He's probably the best backup center in the NBA.
I mean, that's true, but he's also older than DeAndre, so I feel like you'd it would be
Brooke
in their interest to
Lopez,
have DeAndre. Yeah.
or wait, Bobby Portis.
Yeah. The key to the Bucks victory.
I said it.
Maybe he's the real Batman.
Oh, stop it, please. Get this guy off the show. So okay. Speaking of show, let's talk briefly about First Take.
First, hey, honestly, I was so sad to see Max gone. So we like to poke fun at Max, say, fate of the universe on the line. The Martians hold the death beam pointed at Earth. I want Iguodala. Kawhi get it more clutch than Kobe. But let's be real. People don't appreciate Max saying this stuff is what makes us get so much entertainment out of First Take because he pulls the beast inside of Stephen A out for him to start yelling on screen and make us enjoy watching the show. And despite what Stephen A like says when he lashes out at Max and certain claims like that, Max knows of basketball. Well, obviously no expert like the NBA players or like guys like Jay Williams. I'm not even gonna say Stephen A. Smith. Guys like Jay Williams who really of basketball. But Max like it's kind of like us in a sense, fans who know the sport.
Right.
And while we may disagree with the points that he makes, unlike certain people on another network, I think it's Fox Sports. What Max's arguments, for the most part, they're not necessarily wrong. He brings out fair points to
Right.
support his conclusions. It's more so his conclusions that he draw from it that we have a problem with. Like Stephen A. says, he relies too much on statistics to form his conclusions. But Max, he makes fair arguments that are true.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know because like so Stephen A went on a radio show after to explain it, and like I sent you,
mhm.
he said that he wanted to change the pace. He said the chemistry was good off the air, but he said he didn't think it was as good on the air, and figured that he needed to add something to boost ratings. So I don't think that taking Max Kellerman off would boost ratings personally. Unless they really hammer down really good guests every day, which hopefully they do. I mean, Michael Irving's a good start.
Michael, yeah, he's a regular on Mondays, and
Yeah.
everybody wants to see those.
So I like that, but I think that you got to understand the ratings declining isn't necessarily people not enjoying First Take. I think you have to understand that a lot of people aren't going on cable TV anymore. A lot of these people aren't necessarily giving it higher viewership. They'll either watch it on YouTube or something like that. You're not necessarily getting
Yeah,
direct views. Um,
yeah, like people are watching maybe clips of it on certain
right.
topics.
And a lot of people don't have time because it's what is it on weekdays at 11 a.m. So like
Yeah, yeah, 10 to 12.
So a lot of people aren't usually around to watch that. You got to understand that. So I don't think it's necessarily anything that they're doing wrong. I think it's just a change of the times in regards to how people watch and people's availability. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that as much as I hate the man, Skip Bayless also is a part of that viewership too. Because people like to see how dumb can he get on the show? Like, what's the stupidest thing that he could say? So and love to see Stephen A's reaction to that. So I think that losing Skip was a part of it, and Skip turned down a huge contract to come back to ESPN because I think Fox paid him really well too. Um,
and there was a Richard Sherman incident.
yeah. So I think you got to understand that's not. I mean, Skip Bayless wasn't going to come back. Um,
Yeah,
I think Max Kellerman was a good person to have in his place and to keep him there.
I
I
think it was great.
what I would have liked is if they let Max Kellerman do whatever he wanted, but similar to Michael Irvin, he was a regular guest once a week. So you at least have him still there at one point. But now he's totally written off.
Yeah. But written off from First Take, Max, he actually, I think it was last year, he started having his own show on ESPN a certain time, the Max Kellerman show, and
Yeah.
he's also hopping on KJZ, Keyshawn Johnson, Jay Williams's show. I think he's going to be a regular with
And
them,
what is it,
and
Subban?
even them, they're a new show too.
They're
So
well liked.
I'm not gonna lie. The moment I found when Max like, oh, bro, announced that he has a new show, like Stephen A, he made a big deal about it. Cause Max and what's his name, Jay, they started a show like around the same time. Stephen A's like, I'm so proud of my little brothers out there making it, get their own shows. As part of me started to suspect, I wonder if Max's tenure with First Take is gonna come to an end. Cause if he's getting his own show now,
Yeah. I just want to know because Stephen A. swears it's all just this chemistry on air and it's not as good as anymore. And I I mean it's just like any NBA NFL trade when someone says chemistry is just not there anymore. Like if
mhm,
something happened behind the scenes and like was there a dispute? Like did something change? Um, I like that he's open about it, but it also feels like there's something going on. And
yeah.
that's not me trying to stir up turmoil. It's just there's always that question, and it could be nothing. But I always wish I could know what specifically chemistry wise changed everything.
Part of me also wonders, like, obviously Stephen A definitely had the biggest voice. He has the biggest voice there in ESPN. But I wonder how much pull or say Molly had in the decision, if she
Yeah,
had any at all.
I think it's I think it's pretty clear that out of everyone, all on ESPN, every ESPN analyst broadcaster, I think Stephen
Yeah,
A. Smith has the most pull out of anyone. I think
yeah.
it's just because I feel like he generates the most money. Um, and
He's
you
been
have
there. He's been there a while too.
yeah, I think the top two people I can think that generate money or have been there a long time are Stephen A. Smith and then probably Scott Van Pelt comes to mind too.
Oh, Mike Greenberg.
Mike Greenberg too. He's more radio esque, not necessarily as much TV. I know he does
No,
some TV, but he's
yeah, no, he has to show ESPN Get Up right before
right.
First Take with Jay Williams. No, not Jay Williams. Jalen Rose is on set there, and he also used to have Mike and Mike back in the day. Or was that a radio show?
Yeah, it was mostly radio, but
Yeah.
I think they broadcasted them on the radio talking. So like you still had them
Okay.
in front of the microphone.
Okay.
I don't watch Sports Center anymore. Like I very much keep up with everything myself individually on things. I'll have follow a bunch of Twitter sports accounts. I'll be all over YouTube watching stuff. So I don't watch Sports Center as much. I don't know how often Scott Van Pelt's on, but I know he used to be the midnight host for everyone to get all their late night stuff on Sports Center, and then sometimes in the morning as well. But I know he was always a big personality on there too, for
Mhm.
mostly baseball and all around sports. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I guess right now, because after what happened the first take, we got to give it up. The number one debate show is undisputed.
I was just about to say that.
Skip, skipping Shannon. Because honestly, despite all the Stephen A. and Skip dialogue, they're legendary. I think they kind of set the precedent for what we want to see out of the base. But I'll say, I honestly like seeing Skip and Shannon Sharp go at it more than I saw Stephen A. and Skip, because I remember because Skip even brought this up too on Fox Sports. First of all, it's a half hour longer than First Take, but he said that with Fox Sports, it's like they're a bit more loose to like
Yeah,
really
I like that.
speak your minds. Yeah, it's more loose than ESPN is. So we get to see a lot more energy, more passion, more between him and Shannon. And who doesn't like to force, the good old Southern accent from Uncle Shay,
I
and bringing out a bottle of Henny on set and
I
goat mask and all of that.
I love Shannon Sharp. He's one of my
Yeah,
favorites, and I also wanted to mention I like their duo way more too because of well, like I like Skip and Stephen A. I told you that the other day, but I think
yeah,
when you watch them, I like them a little bit more because this isn't a diss to Stephen A. But instead of Skip shouts all this awful, stupid takes, and you can't stand listening to it. And Stephen A. will flip out on him right after, and it's funny.
yeah.
But I like how Shannon's collected, and he kind of builds up his outburst, and then throws it all out onto Skip Bayless. And
I don't know. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he's like, "What was that? Man, that's a
even his
bull
facial
job."
reactions, it's just like,
But, yeah, and he brings out the prompts, the
yeah,
Henny, and all of that. But most of the time, Shannon's the one who goes first, though,
yeah.
and then Skip responds.
Gotta just shut off the TV for
Yeah,
that side.
yeah. And with Stephen A. and Max, it's funny. I saw many comments on this, and I've known it to be true. Um, what turned people off? Some people off a bit about Stephen A. and Max, if they felt Stephen A. was a bit too disrespectful to Max. Yeah, it's funny, but they're like sometimes they say honestly, Max isn't really losing like some of these arguments.
Yeah, and
The
he's
thing
always
is, they feel
treated
like
that he's losing.
yeah, yeah, like it's like this thing. It's like when Stephen A. gets backed into a corner, his go-to thing is just insulting his
Yeah.
basketball intelligence.
Yep. Now, I want to hear your take on this.
Yeah.
I guess as we get close to wrapping up, um, who's your least favorite sports figure in the broadcasting department, analyst, everything?
My least favorite is definitely Will Kane.
That's a fair one. That's
I'm gonna
completely
call
fair.
it as it is. Number one, for number one, I'm definitely convinced the man is racist. Like you're hearing me say it now. Um, there's so much evidence, and I out there. I think obviously he's not gonna explicitly say it, but he's somewhat into that. Oh, white supremacy stuff in the sense that he likes to, deny it. But also, what I really had a problem with is him defending the fact that I don't that who's that NASCAR player who that found a noose in his
Oh, Bubba
garage.
Wallace.
Yeah, and he thought people were overreacting to it. He said he
Yeah.
doesn't think people are looking to find the truth; they were just looking for a narrative, and he basically tried to talk it down. Like that was just nonsense to me. And there've been other moments, like even before I started watching First Take religiously, where people have like suspected Will Kane for like being racist for saying like
Well,
controversial things. I think part of it may be I know I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly where he's from, but he's either from like down south or like more like suburban or rural upbringing as opposed to the guys like Max who's from the city. So like, he grew up around like
well,
minority groups.
and like that's fine. Grow up wherever. But there's even without all the racist stuff, he's
Oh yeah.
supposedly one of the nastiest people to meet in person, from what I've
Oh
heard.
yeah. Oh, that's gonna be my next step. I was gonna say, well, beyond that, the racist stuff. I cannot understand the fact that whenever he sets on set, how condescending he is constantly. That's why I love seeing Stephen A. put him in his place. But when he
Yeah,
talks to Mac, he's even more blatant. He's like Stephen A. When he snaps on Max, it's just more so in the passion of the sport. But he is just genuinely like condescending and disrespectful, like to Max. And he pulled that shit on Stephen A. too. But we know Stephen A.
he won't
is
take
like
it.
a lion. So I love seeing him like snap on Will, and
Well,
Will shuts the hell up
that
too
that's
when
what I
he
hate
goes up.
is Will Kane's
Yeah,
got some of the worst sports takes, but he talks down to you like he knows everything, and it's like,
yeah,
dude, you have no clue how sports work. And
yeah,
for me, I can't stand Colin Coward. I Will Kane's definitely up there. Colin Coward has the absolute most garbage takes, and that's strictly sports takes. Overall,
yeah,
I'm sure he's a good person, but he
yeah,
has no clue what he's talking about. And Kendrick Perkins is up there too.
yeah. Well, with Colin, I don't honestly, I don't watch the herd that much, so that's why I don't
So
say much
bad.
about him. I mean, he has a little place in my heart for being a LeBron fan and stuff. But I will say this: I felt like this was like 2 years ago. I was kind of like turned off from him because I thought he was slandering Russell Westbrook a bit. Like I think he was being like overly critical on
Yeah,
him. Like in some cases where it's like it was constant, like it was basically player hating at some point.
he has
So,
the
so
worst
that's
takes on
why I
the
stopped.
Jets, and I think, oh man, I can't even name things because he angers me. He really does, and I can't name a really bad take off the top of my head, but I know for a fact that there was. I've turned the TV off more watching him than I do Skip Bayless. And Skip Bayless is up there too. Sorry, forgot to mention it.
Yeah,
I like him only because he's controversial. I swear to you, I think he does it intentionally, even if he
I,
does believe it.
I
I
think it's both.
I think it's a mix of him believing it and or him chasing narratives when he was younger, right? And doing
Mhm.
all these crazy storylines to the point where now he just believes it and he goes along with it. I don't know what it is, but I
It's-
I admire how passionate he is with the dumbest takes possible. I really
yeah.
do. And but Colin Coward, he genuinely believes it and he's serious about it. And I can't. I can't.
Yeah, Skip is just hilarious for me. That's why I don't even call it hate.
Yeah.
Like, who else is there? Oh, there's a Rob Parker. I'm a bit indifferent about him. I wouldn't say hate, but honestly, Skip is the reason why Skip is when we say bad takes. Skip is the first person that comes to mind, is because he's just so famous and legendary at this game of being a sports broadcaster, analyst, whatnot. But I think Rob Parker's takes are way worse than Skip's. Many people get that. I keep trying to look for the YouTube video on this, but I can't find it. Maybe it's intentional. But he has a show. I forgot what it's called that he does with Chris Broussard, a radio show on air in 2018 when LeBron got hurt and he came back and the Lakers missed the playoffs and everyone, the world was falling apart. LeBron got done and all of that. This man went on air and basically said that JJ Redick is better than LeBron because he said it indirectly, like, oh, when they were ranking players, and then he said, nope, what's it called? Listen, Chris, the LeBron James is not in the playoffs. So LeBron's not in the playoffs, so he doesn't. So he's not the best in the world. And then Chris Broussard's like, okay, you can't necessarily say that. There are lots of guys who aren't in the playoffs. Who are in the playoffs that are better than LeBron. Like, are you going to say JJ Redick's better than LeBron? And then the Rob, is he in the playoffs? And they ended the show on that.
I don't like Rob Parker either.
Oh
I
yeah,
just wanted to
his
show you
face.
that graphic that number one was Skip, but number two was Colin
Yeah.
Coward. Thank God. Um,
His famous lines though. No way, no how. Rob Parker.
I I he's number 10 on this list, by the way, and I think it's just because he's not as widely known. I think if
Yeah.
people got the full wrath of Rob Parker, he'd be much higher. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the Colin Coward. I can't wait till he's off air. No disrespect to him. I hope you retire happily with your family, whatever. But Please do it sooner.
Oh yeah, interesting. I don't know if you saw Joy Taylor. I think she's getting her own show.
Joy Taylor.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know who Joy Taylor is.
she's the woman that's on the herd with Colin Coward right now.
Oh, really?
And at one point, she was the moderator for Undisputed, like the first go around, like when it just started
I
before Jenny Taft.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't watch Colin Coward a lot. Like I said, when I do, I hate him.
Yeah,
But I do remember.
she,
I didn't know her name was Joy Taylor, but the person that assisted with her and kind of hosted it did a really good job. So
yeah,
that's cool. I'm happy to see that. I'm not a massive fan of Molly, but she's growing on me. I think she's starting to
mm.
understand things more. It's process.
I don't care. I'll say it on the air. I like Molly because I think she's hot, and Jalen Rose is a
Oh
lucky,
my
lucky man.
gosh. She is um iffy with her sports takes. She'll throw them out there, but here's the thing. I don't want you to throw out iffy sports takes. You could throw them out. That's fine. Say them. But you got to be confident saying them. She always
Yeah,
chimes in like not confident, like, "Oh, well, like, do you think this?" And like, I know she's supposed to ask questions, but she's like, she'll bring up points, but she'll bring it up gently, where she's not passionate at all about it. And I'm like, listen, you gotta back what you believe in.
I don't think that's the problem. And the problem that people have, the problem is, do you know when she drops her takes in? It's like while Stephen A. or Max are
Oh,
talking, so
mid
like it
argument, she'll
gets drowned
talk
out.
straight over you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Even Stephen A. called out sometimes. He said, like he told us, say, you always have something to say. Like one of us are talking to stuff. Like, and the more like they turn to her, she's like, wait, no, no, I'm not getting a part of it.
yeah,
Stephen
nope,
A's like, nah, nah, you're trying to get. You always got something to say, right?
yeah. Um, I don't think I got anything else to add, to be honest with you.
Yeah, just know everyone. One day, SEVelocity will be number one.
Yes, at least number one in your guys' hearts. um, Now before we depart, last score update: the Rams are up 13-0 on the Bears in LA. Matt Stafford's playing well in his debut for the Rams. Good for
Hmm.
him. Next week should be a good week of football. Hopefully, a little bit more basketball to talk about as well. Not too much going on. Um, Now, if I'm gonna try to do this quick. I want to give a recommendation for anyone who is interested in watching football or is watching football. I want to give a recommendation of a game that you should watch next week. And
Hmm.
I'm going to try to do this every week, hopefully. Now, there's a couple good games, but one that stands out the most to me. Well, I think the 49ers and Eagles will be closer than everyone thinks. The 49ers will probably are expected to blow them out, but 8:20 p.m. Chiefs versus Ravens. Lamar Jackson versus Pat Mahomes next Sunday. Be
I'm
there.
watching that.
It's going to be a good game. Without further ado, hope everyone has a great rest of their week.
Uh, I want to chime in one thing too here. Um, Not 100% guaranteed, but we are considering maybe trying to implement SEVelocity fantasy basketball before the season starts. We obviously, I mean, I think football with more players and stuff, it would be a bit more difficult. I'm assuming I'm not very familiar with fantasy, but the season already started, so it's kind of late for that. But we'll keep you posted. Check our Instagram page. Then you'll know if we're doing the fantasy basketball or not.
Yeah, so we'll do some fantasy basketball, hopefully, and if we do a league, have some of the viewers join.
Hmm.
If that's something that they're interested in. In terms of football, it could be a second half of the season thing where we pick games, or even do a playoff thing when the playoffs start and everyone gets to predict the playoffs. But we'll go from
Yep.
there. That's far away.
Hmm.
So have a good rest of your week. Hope everyone is doing well and stays well, and we will see you all next Saturday or Sunday.